Namaste, Devi or Sajno, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Sound Home Podcast. With me, like always, is my wonderful, highly skilled, trained professional co-host, Mr. Parth Valunskar. And today we've got someone really special, all the way from Delhi. We've got Mr. Arnav Maggo. He's a singer-songwriter who's been pursuing music since the age of 13. He has ventured into the music scene of Delhi. He's also ventured into the music scene of New York and also briefly in the Dubai strata of music. And he is doing some wonderful work. He's released three songs yet. One of them, I suppose, is an English song, and two of them are Hindi. I think one just came out recently, as far as we could gather. And we're going to be talking to him about his influences, his processes as an artist, and what keeps him going as a musician, and a lot more. So Arnav, thank you so much for joining and taking this time. It's a pleasure for us. How's it going?
Thank you so much for having me. It's going very well. How are you guys doing?
All decent, man. All decent. We were just what I really liked about the vibe of the songs is that it has this really like happy, sad vibe. Like it's a sort of
Mhm.
a it gives you a smile on your face also, but it sort of takes you
Yeah.
back into the memory lane. Like it
Hmm.
has that sort of nostalgic essence to it. Was that a deliberate sort of attempt to sort of bring that feeling and sort of capture that in your songs, or was it something that just inherently comes to you when you sort of write songs?
I think it was both. I think it naturally comes to me, first of all, because that's the sort of music that I listen to.
Huh.
And I mean, I'm usually inclined towards ambient music. And at
Huh.
least right now, that's what I've been interested in. And that's the kind of music that I've been making.
Huh.
Ambient, like dreamy kind of music,
Huh.
which can be both a little sad and hopeful.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, I mean, so most of my songs are usually about like, uh, breaking out of a rut or,
Hmm.
self-realization. So it's
Right.
like coming from a place where you're not satisfied with,
Hmm.
what you're doing or the things around you, and sort
Right.
of like, becoming a better person or, finding somebody or I mean, that's what my recent single was about,
Right.
finding something or someone that pulls you out of that sort of limbo and
Yeah.
gives you hope. So I
Yeah.
mean, there's an element of sadness, but also there's an element of hope, and I try to convey
Absolutely.
those two things through my lyrics as well
Hmm.
as through the music. So I'm actually very glad you mentioned that, and I'm glad that it's coming across like that.
Oh, absolutely, man. I actually, what happened is that this is like, I'm not even like, this is not something I'm making up. I actually heard your songs like three, four times. Like,
Oh.
though I played the whole Spotify thing. That's not usually the case because we just try to make it a little quick and we don't try to get too much into it. But I really sort of resonated with the vibe of what you were doing. And what I even found really interesting is that you've released a song in English and you've released two in Hindi, right? But I didn't feel too shortchanged. I mean, it could go against certain people, right? Like we had this wonderful musician. I mean, it didn't go against for her. I mean, we're talking about like this is really wonderful musician. Her name is Akansha Sethi. We had her on the podcast
Yeah.
recently, and she's released two songs. One is Winter and one is Thoda Sa Hair or something. If I'm not wrong,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. So both the songs we were even talking to about that is that one is in English, one is in Hindi, and they sound completely different, and that could be scary to certain artists as well, right?
Mhm.
But I think that shows a diversity, and not saying that you're not diverse or anything of that sort, but I felt that even what you doing in your case is also a very challenging sort of task, because I think to express your feelings with that fluency in both the languages and maintaining a soundscape around it can also be a very difficult task.
Mhm.
Was that also sort of something that you kept cautious, sort of care about, that I don't want to sort of mess with how people perceive my music and ensure that certain things about my music are always intact?
No, I think I definitely feel that way as well when I switch
Ah,
between the two languages. I don't
ah,
feel much of a difference. Like
yeah,
it's not like I have to
Ah.
switch on my Hindi mode or English mode.
ha, ha,
Both
ha,
the
ha.
languages come to me very naturally. I think one reason could be that a lot of people have come up to me and said that even in my Hindi songs, there's like a Western vibe.
Yeah,
So the only thing that's different between the two songs is the language.
yeah.
But usually, I mean, I guess like when people write in Hindi, they they have like a
Adapt sort of
desi
Hindi,
vibe.
yeah, Indian
Right.
sensibilities
Uh-huh.
into their
Yeah,
music.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
So
Right.
yeah, that could definitely be a reason. But for me, I mean, the only difference, I mean, I speak in both languages. I think in both languages.
Correct.
That's why it makes sense that I, write songs in both the languages as well.
Absolutely.
So to me, I mean, it's not really like a difficult task switching between the two.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's interesting because I think, yeah, I think that sort of broadens the spectrum of what you can do with music, and you can't limit
Mm.
yourself to a particular sort of language. I think then you can even reach to a wider audience, and I'm sure that you can have two coexisting audiences where each of them would like you for the languages that you're doing, whether it's Hindi or English,
Right.
and they would not need to necessarily merge also, and you can do way more stuff with what you're doing. So tell me about this. Having made music in both the languages, what is a language that you sort of feel more comfortable towards, and sort of is directly indicative of the influences that you had, like you said about Western influences, right?
Mm.
But is there any language? I'm sure there might be one language you are completely comfortable making. I'm sure that certain languages require that sort of finesse. You want to ensure that if you're doing something, like it probably might be Hindi for you, probably might be English. It differs, right? So what is that language for you that you're really sort of your grasp of making songs in it is much efficient for you?
Mm. I mean, it really depends. There are times when I'm more comfortable in English, or
Uh,
I'm feeling like writing in English more than Hindi. During those times, English comes more naturally to me,
right.
and sometimes it's Hindi.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I mean, there's no one language that I'm like permanently attached to. It
Correct.
all depends on my mood
Uh-huh.
because I'm pretty comfortable in both the languages. I mean, I grew up listening to a lot of English music, but then
Yeah.
I speak in Hindi all the time with my family and my friends and all.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, I have a great time writing in both the languages.
Wow. That's
Mm.
interesting. That's interesting. I mean, also what I want to sort of ask you further about this is that, you like you said that you had Western influences,
Mm-hmm.
growing up, and that has sort of reflected in being a huge component of the kind of music you make. But I mean, having lived, like we were even talking about this earlier, that you've lived in Delhi and then you've lived in New York, you've lived briefly in Dubai as well. And like we also spoke earlier, that they're very contrasting sort of, places to each other. Their cultures differ and they are diverse and rich in their own way, and they have their own history to it, which
Mm-hmm.
sort of even indicates that the artistic, lineage that they've had for all these years will also differ. So when you get into those environments, the kind of music or the kind of art in general that you're sort of exposed to will be different, right? The approach towards it. So I mean, I'm sure that you sort of started in Delhi with, listening to, I think you mentioned Radiohead and Queen and Pink Floyd
Yeah.
and all these wonderful bands and musicians. So tell me about this. Once you sort of got to these places, like you were even talking about, like once you got to New York, the songwriter within you, and you realize that there's more to music that I could possibly explore and, channelize
Yeah.
via the musician that I am. So did you have sort of this temptation, or is there some sort of genre or some kind of music or some kind of instrumentation that's really fascinated you and you sort of resonated with, and you felt that probably I could give this a go, or something of that sort?
Like learning picking up a new instrument, or
It could be anything. I mean, just a new genre, a new instrument, any new art form, apart from music as well. Is there something of that sort that happened with you once you got to there?
yeah, I mean, so this probably comes from my experience in college over there as well.
Uh-huh.
My experience, I mean, that I had studying over there was pretty different from my experience in India.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of very interesting writing classes and acting classes and things like that as well.
Okay.
I don't consider myself a writer. I think I'm better at music, but yeah, I
Right.
mean, definitely I started exploring those things as well,
Right.
and that contributed to my music too. And
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, and I also kind of flirted with some other instruments. Like I picked
Okay.
up the harmonica.
Wow. Okay.
Guitar is definitely my primary instrument, but I wanted to make it a little
I saw a
more.
video of you with the harmonica sort of. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, so I mean, just to make it a little bit more interesting, and I actually got introduced to. I had known about Bob Dylan, but I got into Bob Dylan and all these like folk singers very heavily when I was in the US.
Okay.
So they have this, the style of playing the guitar and playing the harmonica simultaneously.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah, I picked that up, and that was definitely a good flavor to my to my music, and it was like an interesting thing to experiment with. I also got very fascinated by the piano, because initially a lot of
Hmm.
music that I was listening to was very guitar based,
Right.
but slowly I also started realizing that the combination of the voice and the
Hmm.
piano, or the combination of the piano with anything, is
Hmm.
like really beautiful, and there's a lot
Right.
of things that you can do with it. So I'm really fascinated by that instrument, but I haven't really practiced it that much. But
Mhm.
something that I'm definitely thinking about doing soon.
Wow, that's wonderful. I mean, yeah, that's really interesting. Tell me about this. Like, I mean, I'm sure that like how you explained it, definitely it had a huge impact in certain aspects to you, right? I mean, speaking about like how it had an impact on you. I mean, art is a reflection of who you inherently are in most cases, right? Especially for singer-songwriters, where it's very biographical, not in the sense that where it's very literal, but it could be translucent rather than transparent for a lot of people, right? Where you're not exactly stating what you're feeling, but you could just say something with an analogy or anything of that
Mhm.
sort with metaphors. So tell me about this, like with the three songs that you put out, how biographical are they, and would you feel that you still would want to be identified completely with those songs, or you feel that there are more sides to you that you could possibly put with the same sort of genre of music that you're doing, or even other sort of things that you want to sort of get towards moving forward, not exactly now or later on? How is that for you? How biographical, how reflective are the songs that you put out of you as a
Mhm.
person?
So I think, yeah, I mean, everything that I write is very heavily based on life experiences as well.
Hmm.
Sometimes, obviously, as a songwriter, you add a little bit of fiction here and there.
Hmm.
Although I find it more comfortable to, sort of take things from my real life experiences.
Yeah.
So all the songs that I've written have been like based on some experience or the other that I had,
Hmm.
and yeah, I think they're biographical to a great extent.
Right.
They definitely express what I was feeling at that point, and what I also continue to feel at times. I mean, definitely there's like other sides of me as well that I
Hmm.
want to explore. There are like other things that I want to express as well. But I
Hmm.
think those songs capture the period, the essence of the period that I was in
Hmm.
when I wrote those songs. But I mean, obviously, in the future, I'd like to explore different themes, and not just lyrically, but also musically. I'd love to experiment with different instruments, because, as you
Absolutely.
said, I mean, the kind of instrumentation I'm using right now, it
Hmm.
gives that like sad but hopeful vibe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I try to like pick my instruments like that.
It's not even that sad. I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of optimism to it as well. Yeah,
Right,
absolutely.
right, right. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely want to explore other genres as
Yeah.
well, and
Yeah.
but I
Hmm.
think right now I'm having a lot of fun doing this stuff, and
Right.
this side of me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, talking about like, putting, showing different sides of yourself, and, you enjoying sort of portraying this side of yourself as a musician, singer, songwriter. Uh, how do you sort of see yourself in the ecosystem, and where do you exactly see yourself? I mean, that's really interesting because that everything is sort of unified virtually ever since the lockdowns have happened.
Mm-hmm.
That, and for especially for somebody like you who's been a part of like different cultures, different cities, where do you ideally look at yourself as, and where would you ideally, if not uh, finding yourself right now exactly where you want to be, where would you ideally want to situate yourself as a musician? In which ecosystem would you want to see yourself standing and doing what you do on a constant basis?
Yeah. So I actually, when I was growing up, I really didn't know what to do with my passion for music, because
Huh.
in India, I mean, there wasn't like much of a independent scene as such.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously
Hmm.
there was Bollywood and things like that. That was definitely a possibility to consider.
Mhm.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, I was like, I didn't have a very clear idea of what I could do like as a musician, and and how I could pursue it as a career.
Yeah.
But when I was in the US, I started like learning about how this indie scene is blowing up back home,
Hmm.
and that really excited me.
Yeah.
So that's why I moved back, and I wanted to be a part of it.
Right.
So that sort of space really excites me right now. because also like the singer-songwriter genre is becoming pretty big in India.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I would like definitely. I mean, I guess I'm a part of it now, but I would like to grow in in that space. But
Absolutely.
also, I mean, hopefully, you know, write for Bollywood movies given a chance,
Hmm.
and collaborate with other bands and other artists in the industry. And then
Right.
hopefully also, I mean, since I write in English as well,
Hmm.
hopefully also look at the international market at some point, maybe
Absolutely.
US or the UK or any other place.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wanted to like kind of stick to what we have talked up till now. So we've talked a lot about, you being part of multiple scenes,
Hmm.
multiple music scenes. So tell us more about it, like how things, differed gigging wise, per se. I mean, gigging in India and gigging in New York, and then uh, how does that differ from each other, and what are the sort of advantages you feel are here in the scene? And yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I haven't had a lot of gigging experience over here so far because I just moved here, and because of
Mm-hmm.
lockdown and everything, I haven't been able to do much of it. But I've been doing live gigs, and
Mm-hmm.
that's been very rewarding as well.
Hmm.
And when I was in the US, the kind of gigs that I was doing were a little bit different because I haven't like played my own songs over there. I've played in part of as like part of bands, and I've played like as a guitarist. But yeah, I mean, so mostly I've been like concentrating on building my online presence.
Yeah.
So so far I've been concentrating on making music in the studio and releasing it.
Hmm.
But yeah, gigging part of it is something that I definitely look forward to when things open up. But I mean, right now, at least over here, I don't have much experience, to be able to answer that.
Absolutely. It's good that Pathbhai brought up the gigging aspect of it also, because I think that's such an important you know what I even find interesting about, like, what I could sort of sense and what I could find out is that you've done a degree in finance, right?
Mhm.
If I'm not wrong, from New York, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yeah,
Right. So I mean, that deals with the whole monetary aspect of things, right? And
right, right, right.
being an artist, I think that is something that people overlook at times and people look at a lot as well, right? Because people think that why should I become an artist where there's I could have a proper paying job and I
Mm-hmm.
could possibly do that and have my life sorted and be a little more secure about how life is going to go about.
Yeah.
Uh, Having done a degree of that sort, to make the leap confidently towards doing being an artist, and knowing, I mean, having studied finance in its entirety, how have you sort of ensured the fact that I'm going to look after my finances as an artist and I'm going to provide for myself?
Mhm.
And also, is there always is there a slight temptation that things could be safer, or you are too certain about the fact that this is what I'm here to do, this is the kind of stuff that I want to do, express myself as an artist, and music is something that I'm going to continue with? What keeps you going as a musician when there are all these sort of, you could just take the safer route,
Mhm.
so to say, right? So how do you sort of maintain that focus towards your career when you could possibly have all these temptations?
Right, right. So I mean, yeah, I think because I have studied finance and I've worked in the industry a little bit as well,
Right.
uh, I think I'm more equipped to be able to handle a career in music because I know a little bit about how like businesses run as well. So I
Hmm.
can look at it as a business too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, if I hadn't, so I mean, definitely, I mean, directly or indirectly, it plays a part in
Mm-hmm.
what I'm doing.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I think definitely it's more unstable than a job or a career in finance, but
Hmm.
it definitely uh, makes more sense, or
Hmm.
it has more scope than it used to maybe like 10-15 years back.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely possible to if not have as stable an income. I mean, it's possible to make a living out of it. There are like different avenues, different revenue streams, And as somebody who understands that part of, or as somebody, uh, because I mean, like there's a lot of artists who like to focus more just on the music part of it, and
Yeah.
they don't think much about the business part of it, and I think that's definitely very
And then,
important.
yeah.
So I mean, yeah, that's the thing. And so because I kind of have that sort of knowledge as well, I think it makes me more equipped to explore those revenue streams and how I can make it work. So I'm pretty confident that if you work hard enough, I mean, obviously nothing is easy. Even like a 9 to 5 job is not as easy.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, I mean, if you work hard enough and if you keep going, there's definitely a scope for even making a living in it.
Oh,
So I
absolutely.
mean, that's what I'm
Absolutely.
looking for. Yeah,
What I really find interesting is that when you mention the fact that I look at this as a business,
yeah.
because I think, like I was just a part of a clubhouse session right now, which is about how to sort of function in the music industry and the business aspect of it. And yeah, I've like, even I sort of have, attended certain, like film school, for example, I've attended film school, and what we were taught on the first day is that it's about art, craft, and commerce, right? I mean,
Mhm.
commerce is such an important because it's a business at the end of the day, right? The
Hmm.
music industry is also a business, and I
That's
mean,
right.
absolutely, you can be very pure about your art, and you can be very sacred about it, and it's like a piece of work and all. But I think definitely you have to sort of market yourself as well, and then
Hmm.
both the things,
Definitely.
doing its own thing. Uh,
Mhm.
how do you sort of look at yourself as a business, and how have you what are the sort of steps you've taken to ensure that I'm going to have a business objective, a commerce objective to all the artistic decisions that I'm going to make, and like blending them together like a marriage of both of them, where they are not sort of overpowering each other, and you are
Mhm.
also content, but at the same time you are also sure and rest assured about the fact that the finance is also going to being taken care of. How do you sort of manage that?
I mean, I think right now, for me, or I mean, in the beginning of any business, the finance part of it definitely comes later. Initially, you just have to bear the costs, and you
Yeah.
start getting a profit after a while.
Huh.
So the way that I'm focusing on on the business part of it is, I'm just like focusing a lot on marketing, and
Yeah.
making sure that I don't consider my job done after just like releasing the song. I also make sure that it
Hmm.
reaches as many people as possible. You
Right.
know, I make sure that everyone, at least in my circle, knows about it, knows that a song is out, or
Hmm.
knows about me as a songwriter, that I create music. And then I just try to I just try to like spread it as much as possible.
Hmm.
So just like generating awareness,
Hmm.
and that's something that I consider very important,
Absolutely.
to build a business. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
uh, I mean, definitely the finance part of it comes later, but I mean, it's only going to come when you have like some customers in business terms, or if you have like an audience in music terms.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I when I even talked about business, I also sort of meant personal branding, because I think that's such an
Right.
important
Right.
tool where you are sort of social media is like your office, right? That's where you sort of are
Mm-hmm.
working from, and you that's like your catalog, right? That's how people sort of assess you. Like even if we want to know who Arnav is, we will possibly go to his feed and we'll check that, oh wow, this is the amazing stuff that he's doing, and this is what he puts out. And like I could even see the latest song that you promoted. Like you had like 3 4 posts before that to sort of promote you
Mm-hmm.
playing that, you singing that. I found that really interesting because I see a lot of friends of mine also doing that to sort of create this general awareness, like you said, about what is going to come, and how it's going to feel. By the time it comes, you sort of familiarize them with what this is exactly, and give them enough information about them it to sort of them to even anticipate it and care about it once it's out. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
building a personal brand, and like you said that you look at it as a business, how do you sort of what are the things that you do on a constant basis to ensure that this is how I'm perceived and this is how my music is perceived? Do you reach out to people? Do you want to sort of ideally get to people who you could outsource that with, or you could do that in collaboration with? Or are there people who you are seeing who are doing that really well and you would sort of want to emulate, not exactly, but emulate in
Mhm.
terms of sincerity? Is there something of that sort that you're sort of working towards
I
building
mean,
a
yeah,
personal brand?
I think like every successful act or every successful band has like a very strong image,
Yeah.
and that image is like very very strongly related to their music, and it
Hmm.
comes across everywhere. If you look at their YouTube videos, or their artwork or their music, you
Yeah.
can see like a theme that's like sort of common across all those things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't think, I mean, it's very hard to be successful without that, because people, I mean, as a musician, obviously, like you're really into the technical part of it, the kind
Hmm.
of chords that you're using, the kind of instruments that you're using. But
Absolutely.
people relate mostly to the story behind the artist, and the brand that the
Hmm.
artist is projecting.
Hmm.
So that's very important. So I try to sort of I try to put that in my artwork. Like, if you see the artwork for my song, for my first song, it's Heart Staying Apart.
Hmm.
Like me standing in the middle of the desert, and
Hmm.
sort of like next to a tree and looking towards the sky. So that sort of uh, uh, I mean, it's like uh, I mean, so you can basically get that feeling of its heart staying apart from that,
Mm.
from
Mm.
Yeah.
from artwork, and also like the kind of clothes that I wear. I try to, I have like I try to think of a color palette for every
Right.
song that I
Right.
release.
Right. Right. Right.
So like Jo Tu Hai Yahan was like kind of dreamy and kind of black and white and kind of grainy. So that's how my that's what my video also looks like, and
Mhm.
that's what my artwork looks like. And I think you can feel a little bit of that while listening to the song too.
Hmm.
Whereas its Heart Staying Apart was very colorful and very
Hmm.
bright, and
Hmm.
you could hear that in the instruments too, like very bright acoustic guitars.
Hmm.
So I try to maintain that theme, and
Absolutely.
yeah, hopefully, I mean, I'll explore more and more of myself and my music, and
Hmm.
come up with more like interesting uh, interesting ways in which I can put my brand across.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I found that really interesting because like a visual aesthetic, or sort of like you even spoke about color palettes, which is
Mhm.
something which is very like in photography and filmmaking is highly regarded, because every color can sort of project a mood and make
Mm.
people watching it feel a certain way. Yeah, that's really interesting. And you even spoke about like reiterating themes, like you said, right? Every act or every band has something that they are known for, right? I mean, there's certain thing that a word or a term or a phrase that you could associate them with.
Yeah.
You also, I think, in a interview of yours, you were talking about the fact that I think you were asked this question. I sorry, I don't remember the interview. I think you were asked about the fact that there's this theme of certain theme which keeps reiterating in your songs. I mean, I'm sure that it's not the exact same theme. There, it's like a larger theme that you're sort of trying to explore via the means of songs. So, tell me about this. Is it something that you sort of, because what I find interesting about even exploring themes on a I mean, exploring one theme uh, through this a series of projects is that either you can go deeper into it, or it's like either you just get into it or you're letting it out. I feel it's like it's
Mm.
both. Either you're fascinated by it and you're getting more into it, or it's
Mhm.
something within you that is like a mode of catharsis for you via the work that you're putting out. How do you look at it? Whether is it something that you want to let out, or is it something that you want to further get deeper inside to sort of find answers for yourself? What is it like for you?
I think it's definitely a little bit of both,
Yeah.
but it
Okay. Wow. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it helps me. I think mostly it helps me express the thoughts that I have, sort of,
Hmm.
and yeah. So I think it's more of a cathartic experience,
Yeah.
but it also helps me explore my thoughts more, and
Hmm.
yeah, it's really little bit of both. It helps me get
Absolutely.
to know myself better,
Yeah.
and then express the things that I find out about myself, and my thoughts.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting because you sort of mentioned both. Yeah, I can sort of understand what you're talking about. Yeah. Uh, Also, what we were even talking to, we asked the same question yesterday to another artist. She's a foreigner, and she also has been doing some wonderful stuff. So we
Okay.
were asking about this, is that like she also, like, you started music at a very young age of 13, right? And
Hmm.
she, I think, started at the age of 3. So
Three,
this is
yeah.
something that I would want to sort of ask you as well, is that how much of the person that you are is your music? I mean, how much of a is there like, are there like two different people, or are there like two sides to the same person, or you are largely the person that you speak about or sort of talk about in your songs?
No, I think I mean there's definitely a lot more. I have like a lot of other you
Assets to
know
yourself.
yeah, and a lot of other activities that I'm interested in as well.
Hmm.
Not
Yeah,
just music. I'm really fond of reading and traveling and thing and
yeah.
but at the same time, all the other parts are not very different from the music part.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but I mean, yeah, there's definitely more to my personality than music,
Hmm.
and hopefully I'm going to be exploring and expressing those like elements as well
Hmm.
in the future. But yeah, I guess I mean it's a little bit of both, even in this case.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. That's a very honest answer. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I
yeah.
yeah.
completely agree on that. Yeah. So tell me about this. Like, you even mentioned that you want to sort of explore different sides of yourself, as well as with like different genres. So is there any genre that you sort of feel that you could be a very good fit in, or you could really feel that you could do justice to, or just, I mean, generally put your songs, package your songs better with, apart from the stuff you're doing now?
Oh, okay. So like some new genre.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, the kind of songs that I'm releasing are not like they're sort of like soft pop,
Yeah.
but I'm also very fond of rock music.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what I grew up listening to.
Hmm.
So I think I definitely fit in very well in a rock band, as like a guitarist or the vocals in those bands are a little bit different. There's a lot of
Yeah.
like, high energy vocals, high pitched
Sort of
vocals.
grungy. Yeah. I mean, like, if
Yeah,
you are
yeah.
trying to sort of go for a Pearl Jam sort of vibe. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm. Like, I
Right.
mean, so John Mayer is actually, I mean, I really like the way that he does this. He's like mostly a singer-songwriter, but he's
Yeah. Yeah.
also, I mean, I don't think a lot of people know this, but he's also a really good guitarist.
Oh,
And,
absolutely. Neon. The
yeah, yeah,
chords
yeah.
of Neon is considered to be some of the toughest chords, right? I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah.
very difficult. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't tried playing it, but it definitely intimidates me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
that side of him, like the guitar solos side of him,
Oh, yeah. For
all
sure.
that side, I mean, that's not as popular as the.
I
Uh,
mean, it has its own audience. Like, he's
it has its
Yeah,
highly
own.
regarded
yeah,
amongst
yeah.
musicians. He's highly regarded as one of
Hmm,
the greatest guitarists
definitely,
of our time. Yeah,
definitely, yeah, yeah.
for sure.
But so he does both the things, right? I mean, he also tours with this band called the Grateful Dead, and
Oh, is it? I had no clue about that. I knew that he was touring with Dave Chappelle. I knew that he was
oh, right,
sort of,
right,
yeah, he was doing like a
yeah,
comedy music tour, which I found so interesting,
yeah,
because they
yeah,
are
yeah.
greats, like some of the greats in their own right, and
Hmm.
it's like two greats of like their own respective fields teaming together and doing something. Yeah.
Right, right,
So,
right.
so you were saying that they were a part of a. He's touring with which band in particular? Did you mention?
He's still actually a part of the Grateful Dead.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
he was a fan of the band growing up, when
Hmm.
he wasn't popular and things like that.
Okay.
And then he became popular, and now he's like one of the lead guitarists in the band. And he tours with them just
Oh,
as a guitarist. He's not like singing. He's not taking the spotlight. He's just like playing the guitar. I mean that.
wow.
I mean that is also sort of a spotlight, but he's not like trying to
Mm.
make it all about him. It's not about
Oh,
himself.
yeah, yeah, for
It's
sure.
just like it's just out of his interest
Hmm.
for that kind of music and that band.
Hmm.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, being in that kind of position where you can do that stuff is something that really interests me.
Wow.
So I mean, just because I'm doing this as my main thing, it doesn't mean that I can't get into other things as well as like
Of
a
Hmm.
side
course.
side thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's yeah, that's definitely something I'd like to do. Uh,
That's such an interesting answer. I'll tell you why. Because, like, even if you take Ed Sheeran's example, like, even after becoming the mainstream star that he is, he's written songs for Justin Bieber and
mm,
Taylor, if I'm not wrong, or Rihanna and all
yeah,
these.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
see, he's done that. I mean, he could very well put his name, just make it a song about himself, and I'm sure that he would get almost the same amount of appreciation for doing that. But I think, yeah, it takes someone who's really secure and is not doing it for the wrong reasons. I'm sure that when you say that, you really, gratification is not your main outcome that you're sort of trying to chase. with the kind of work you're doing, right? I think it's more of a larger impact, or it's just a lot more deeper than something which could just instant gratification, or just being known, or just
That is right. Yeah,
is
yeah.
that sort of how do you sort of ensure not being to not being someone who's actively chasing those things, but also ensure that you're maintaining a place for yourself and building your own brand where people who are constantly in the public eye and are doing all sorts of things to ensure that they are relevant are the people who usually are the known entities. So how do you sort of maintain a balance between both the things where it could be sort of like both of them sort of opposing each other?
Yeah. So I mean, so basically a balance between being true to the music that I'm making and also sort of trying to get recognition and things like that, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's very important to maintain a balance. You can't
Yeah.
you can't just be too involved in one of the two because
Absolutely.
that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I think the music part of it is more important to me for sure, and that's something that I enjoy doing more as well. And I mean, I just like keep coming back to why I started doing this in the first place. I
Hmm.
wanted to just like make music, and like I used to come back from work, I used to come back from college and make music, and that was just like noodle on my guitar and come up with like short small pieces, and that's something that I wanted to be doing all the time.
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
that's the reason that I started it, and that's what I keep reminding myself. Like this is what
Yeah.
I'm, trying to do. To to like to just like do this full time
Right.
and
Absolutely.
make a career out of it.
Hmm.
And whenever I get too distracted by other things and all the other noise that's there, that's what
Yeah.
I try to keep reminding myself.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I also allocate some time in my day to focus on the marketing bit of it.
Hmm.
And it's not like I'm wearing a marketing hat or and then I'm wearing a music hat.
No, no,
I
certainly.
think both
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
things are the music part of, like when I'm promoting the music, I am like serving my purpose, or like
Mhm.
serving what I want to do. And when
Hmm.
I'm making music, I'm doing the same thing. So it's not like those two parts of me are very different from each other. But I mean, of course, I mean, you can't like get too involved in just
Yeah.
like thing, or just like making music and not worrying about the marketing part of it.
No, no, totally, totally, totally. Because we are putting out like I mean, of course, like it's difficult to
Mhm.
compare both the things, but we are putting out a podcast every week, right? So I think sometimes you can get so involved in like research and coordinating with the guests and doing the podcast and editing it and making it ready, and then getting it ready for release. By the time you're too exhausted in the process to even care about how you're even supposed to sort of reach the audience that it's supposed to potentially reach. So
Mhm.
I completely get your when you say that, because I think if you look at it that way, because I mean, a good product which is not seen by people is injustice to the product itself. I mean, I think it's very important for it to either find its audience in its own time, and I think with the tools of like running ads, or possibly just building communities, or using hashtags, or just generally educating a potential audience by saying that this is what I do, or just putting yourself out there. I think that really helps, and it's good that you're doing that, because you're setting a good example for other people, because I'm sure that you are successful in your own right. So yeah, we were talking about, like you said, that once you saw the sort of indie scene picking up in India, that sort of empowered you.
Mhm.
And I think with like the whole Bollywood ecosystem, and that being the larger majority of how music is looked at and still looked at, like for a lot of people, music in Hindi is just Bollywood.
Mhm.
I think it's just Bollywood. So, who are the sort of artists that you sort of saw? What are the sort of commercial successes that you saw that you felt that, hey, now I can make this decision, I can make this leap where, uh,
Yeah, I mean, so the first couple of artists that I saw were, Local Train, When Chai Met Toast.
right?
So I was actually very interested. I mean, I loved their music,
Hmm.
but then I found out a lot of my friends had also heard it, and it was kind of, it was
Mhm.
exciting because it was the first time that a lot of people that I knew were also listening to this kind of music, which was totally independently created. And that kind of gave me an idea of how like popular these bands are getting back home. And I mean, more importantly, the kind of recognition that they're getting, which is not something you would have seen, 10, 15 years back. And I think also like Pare can sing, Pratik Kuhad, and all
Oh,
these.
I love the song. It's called "I Love You, Baby" or something, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
something. Yeah.
yeah.
It. Yeah. I love you. Sorry, what's it?
I love you, baby. I love you, doll.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It was so good. I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And what was special about them was that they were making English music.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still possible for an indie artist to make Hindi music and
Hmm.
get popular in India.
Hmm.
But making English music as an Indian artist and a lot of Indian people listening to it, because usually, I mean, people in India listen to a lot of Western artists, and I hadn't heard of a lot of people listening to uh, Indian musicians who were making English music. So that was something
Absolutely.
new that happened. And obviously, I
Hmm.
mean, one really exciting thing I think like for the entire industry was when Pratik Kuhar got featured in like Obama's
Yeah. Yeah.
list.
What he is.
So that was
Yeah.
like a big thing as well, like
No,
for
huge.
English Indian indie music.
For sure. For
Um,
sure.
so yeah, I mean, I think that was that's something that gave a lot of hope to a lot of musicians. Um, and these people were like sort of like the flag bearers of the indie scene, and they're the ones who who started it, and a lot of people are following their footsteps and coming into it.
Hmm.
So yeah, and I think I forgot to mention a lot of bands, but there were like many bands that I listened to at that time. I was really fond of Ritviz as well. I
Oh
Mhm.
think
yeah.
at
Absolutely.
that time, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
once I got into it, I started exploring the playlists, like the indie India playlists and stuff, and I found
Yeah.
out about a lot of bands who were sounding really good. Like
Yeah.
this band called the F16s as well.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they sounded like really talented, and the music was really high quality as well. Totally comparable to the stuff that was coming out in other countries where there's already an established scene. So
Totally.
that was really great. I mean, not just like people getting recognition, but also the fact that there's a lot of quality content, and it's like a mature industry. It's
Hmm.
not like, it's like a serious, it's been a very like serious business for some time.
Hmm.
So yeah, and obviously, I mean, with that growth, a lot of money also came into it, so that makes it financially viable too.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. uh, I would recommend this band of ours from our city. They I think just made like 3 songs for the Family Man also recently,
Season 2, yeah.
and I mean that's I mean they are a lot more than I mean of course the commercial work is very good, but it's called Fiddlecraft and it's headlined by this gentleman called Gaurav Kadu, and he is I think I regard Fiddlecraft as one of the finest like top 5 or 10 bands of our country. So
Mm.
I would
Mm.
really recommend you checking that because like how you mentioned like you got to know about all these wonderful artists like through playlists. That's how I sort of also got to know about them, and then I turns out that they're from our city, and then I sort of
Mm.
got to know them and all of that. So
Yeah.
it's I mean it's so much exciting work has been happening that people probably are not have not even completely got into yet. And I'm sure that there's like a whole Bollywood audience if they get to know the amazing stuff that is happening in the indie scene.
Mm.
They probably will also be very encouraging towards what's happening. So I think it's just
Yeah.
a matter of time
No,
where that.
like you said in Family Man is not technically, I guess you could call it. I mean, it's not technically Bollywood,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but also like a lot of Bollywood movies have been, you know, have been hiring indie artists to make music
Right,
for.
right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of support coming in from Bollywood too.
Oh, for sure. Pratik Kuwar made like I think a whole album for like Irfan Khan's movie and
Yeah, I think
Mm.
it
yeah,
had like he had like a couple of
five or
songs
six.
in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was Karma or something. Yeah, it was
Right,
that
right.
movie.
Karma. Yep.
And
Karma where
even like the hip hop scene is getting really big now.
I mean Gully Boy like 42 artists like even Gully Boy there were like 42 indie artists
Indie artist, yeah.
including and I think Ankur Tiwari had supervised like the whole album like he was a
Right.
music
Yeah.
supervisor. That
Hmm.
was just insane to me like how they
Yeah.
sort of put that together. I mean I totally agree with what you're saying. Yeah, I mean
And
if
I mean, to be honest, there have been movies, which featured music and about music and everything. But the music entirely was done by the people who were already there, not taking anything away from it, but like
Mm-hmm.
Gully Boy actually gave it all to the indie musicians, which is
Yeah,
Definitely.
where the credit goes at.
yeah,
Yeah,
totally, totally.
definitely.
And I think once, I think like I was hearing this very common saying that if you want to make something popular in India, just make Bollywood do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I in a lot of aspects, like whether it's fashion, whether it's tourism, whether it's dance steps, or whether it's genres, or whether it's even like music, right? Like if
Right.
people, if you want to like, I think like putting something in Bollywood is like the biggest brand awareness campaign that you can do, like
Mm-hmm.
to ensure. And I think once people saw that, I think that empowered other labels to also say that if Gully Boy can create such results in terms of music, if it's
Mm-hmm.
handed over to the right people, because at the end of the day everybody wants good music, right? Music that works, music that resonates.
Yeah.
So whoever it comes from, I'm no disrespect to the mainstream Bollywood music composers. I think they're doing an excellent job in whatever they're doing, and it's extremely difficult to do what they're doing when there's so much of money, expectations, their own sort of goodwill and brand that they've created over the
Hmm.
years, and them expected to sort of make music of that caliber and get those results. I think it can be so difficult.
Yeah.
So to constantly be in that pressure where you are sort of always threatened by new people coming in and probably trying to take up your space. So yeah, I completely agree. But you even mentioned the fact that you wanted to sort of get collaborating with Bollywood, and I found that really interesting because either people use India as a means to get to Bollywood, or people are completely anti-Bollywood, like what's Bollywood, doesn't matter, and this is not me,
Right.
I'm the superior artist and all of that. But I think you
Yeah.
are looking at it in a very holistic way, and you're saying that I will also do my indie work. I would also not want to only be the musician that I am, and also even collaborate with other people in terms of probably
Mm-hmm.
just being an instrumentalist. How do you sort of, what different would you want to possibly do? Like if tomorrow you get a call from like a leading Bollywood sort of entity,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, hey Arnav, we really like your music, and this is what we want to do. What would you want to possibly bring newer to the table in what's existingly happening in the scene?
Yeah. I mean, also, I mean, first of all, I don't. I mean, obviously, they're considered two different industries, but for me, I mean, I just want to be making music, and
Yeah,
so I don't want to like distance myself from anything because
right.
I'm really fond of the indie music that's being made as well. But I
Hmm.
also love the kind of music that's there in Bollywood these days.
Yeah,
Uh, like I'm a big fan of Amit Trivedi.
same, same. Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
And all over the
Yeah,
years, he's maintained this quality.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Certainly, certainly.
Mhm. So yeah, I mean, so I'm not like chasing a certain sort of like industry or a certain tag or anything like that. I just want to be making music, be it in Bollywood or be it as an independent artist. So yeah, and I mean, I think there's like a certain kind of songwriting that I've been doing right now,
Hmm.
which I also spoke about a little bit earlier.
Hmm.
Uh, so I mean, if there's like a project that wants, or there's like a movie that wants something along those themes, I think I would do like that's something that would be interesting to me. But at the
Yeah,
same time, I mean, also just like trying something new would be a good challenge and would definitely like help me grow as a musician. So, I mean, if like somebody comes to me and they want like a jazz or of, I guess like jazz would be a
blues.
good example.
Okay.
So if they come to me and they want a jazz record or a jazz album, that would be an amazing challenge for me as well.
Sure,
Uh,
sure.
but I think I mean like the kind of songwriting that I'm doing right now, if
Yeah.
there's a need for that sort of work, then I think like I'd be able to add value to it or contribute to it.
Sure, sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. Wow, that's really interesting. And you, good that you mentioned growing as a musician, because that
Mhm.
brings me to the next question I have for you. Like we sort of even spoke about earlier, that you said that you started pursuing music at the age of 13. And why I find 13 very interesting is because that's like you entering your teens, right? And when you are
Mhm.
in your teens, you're sort of already dealing with these emotions, plus using music as the medium to sort of express your emotions.
Mhm.
What I
Yeah.
wanted to know is that how was your relationship with music at the from the age of 13 until now, and how did that sort of help you sort of process and express feelings, comprehend feelings, and sort of channelize them at that age? And how much of that musician that you were back then is intact now, and what has been the sort of evolution or that gradual sort of change within you as a musician and as a person going
Hmm.
forward?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can also tell you a little bit about my relationship with music before I was 13, because
Okay.
that's something that I consider very interesting. Because I mean, before 13, I mean, obviously, I was a kid and I wasn't mature enough to appreciate music the way, we're able to right now. But I really wasn't into it that much. It was just like a subject in school. It was just like an extra activity that we had to do in school.
Yeah.
But when I was 13, there was like an extra subject, or a topic that was introduced in our curriculum, and which was Western music.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh wow.
so that's when I think the teacher came in, and he taught us a song by Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall.
Oh, okay.
And so I
That,
Nice.
just
that, how did they teach you that in school? That just blows my mind because yeah, because another brick in the wall is we don't need any we don't need no education. I'm like, wow,
Nice. Yeah.
that's the most paradoxical song to be taught in school. Yeah.
but I mean, at that time, I didn't think much of the lyrics. I just thought that it was a cool song.
Yeah,
And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
yeah, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty funny. But
yeah,
then I went back and I told my dad about it, and he was like,
yeah.
"Oh, I mean, um, I've been a fan of this band since I was a kid." And then he introduced me to his collection of like
Oh
Pink
wow.
Floyd, Beatles, and
Okay.
ABBA, and all that stuff.
Right, right.
And I listened to that stuff, and it was like a switch inside me, and I just like got very, very, very fascinated by it, and I got completely obsessed with it. Like
Hmm.
before that, I wasn't into music at all, but the moment I was introduced to these bands, I got really into it. But it definitely affected me in a different way than it does now, because
Hmm.
now, as I said, I also like listen to uh, I mean, so at that time I was mostly fascinated by the guitar work, and I wasn't, I mean, obviously maybe subconsciously I was listening to the lyrics, but maybe I wasn't mature enough to understand the actual meaning behind those songs, like Pink Floyd songs, and
Right.
they have like very complicated themes, but it was just something that sounded very cool to me. And mostly I was just like really into the guitar work. So for the first couple of years, maybe like from 13 to 17 or so, uh, uh, like guitar was like the guitar work was like the main thing that I appreciated
Yeah,
in songs. And also like the general environment, like Linkin Park was pretty big at that time.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
even though maybe I was not relating as much to the message behind those songs, like
Hmm.
lyrically, I
Hmm.
was like really, into
Into
the
the music.
atmosphere of the music itself.
For sure, for sure.
But as I got bigger, I started, I mean, as I got older, I started thinking about the lyrics as well, and the kind of stories that these songs are trying to tell. So, I mean, there are like a lot of songs that I've been a fan of for like 10, 15 years.
Hmm.
But I think when I was in college, I, uh, I was listening to a song which I think I'd heard for the last time, maybe like 7, 8 years before that.
Okay.
And that's like the first time I paid attention to the lyrics, and that like sort of gave me another, thing to think about, and gave me another reason to be fascinated by those songs.
Hmm.
So I think as I've grown, I've like explored like different layers, and in music, and I've just like been able to get into it deeper and deeper. And I think that's like a journey that's never ending. You can't like figure music out completely or any art form. Like you just like it's basically like meditation.
Hmm.
Right, right,
Uh,
totally.
yeah, I mean, now I definitely, I won't say I understand it better than I was able to when I was like 15 or 16, but I just understand it differently. And maybe that's going to
Yeah.
change in the future. And yeah.
Wow, man. That's really interesting. So I mean, this is going to be like my last question, and then we like have path-wise question, which we call the corporate question, because you
Hmm.
already worked in the field of finance. You might just, I mean, it's not that complicated, but this is like my question, last
Okay.
question for you.
Okay.
And anyways, man, I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure hearing you. So
Mhm.
that's also something I what to say, thank you so much for being
Same
so
here.
upfront about the answers and how you sort of look at things. It's been so interesting. I hope that people are able to gauge what you know, all the information that you put out. But my question to you is that what would you sort of want the ideal impact of your music to be, your work to be?
I think I'd be really, really happy, and it would be a dream come true if I I'm able to, if my music is able to affect people the way music has like affected me, the kind
Okay.
of music that I listen to.
And how is that, if I may ask?
Um, I mean, just like my like music has really been a companion
Yeah.
to me
Mm.
throughout my life. It's been like a constant thing.
Yeah.
No matter the phase that I was in or what I was going through. There are like many different things that have happened. Like I mean, like they do in everyone's lives. But
Mhm.
I think one thing that's been very constant is the music, and it's really been like a friend to me.
Mm.
Um,
Oh, okay.
I'm able to find like comfort in it.
Hmm.
I mean, that's why I mean, uh, also like it's not like about when you're making music, it's not like being really technically proficient in it. Like you don't have to be an excellent guitarist, or you don't have to be like a you don't I mean, obviously Freddie Mercury is amazing, but you don't have to be Freddie Mercury. You just have to be able to connect. You I mean, you just have to be able to express something that people are able to connect with.
Yeah.
uh, so yeah, I mean, my goal definitely is to be able to make music that people can find a place for in their lives. And I'm writing a song because it means something to me, and I have a certain interpretation of it. And it's actually happened before when I wrote Aaj Chale Hum Kahin. I
Hmm.
wrote it for a certain reason, and I had a meaning for it. But a lot of people came up to me and they told me like, this is what it means to me, and this is what it means to me, and that's like totally different
Wow.
from what the song stands for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it would be amazing if people can find a home for my songs in their lives, and they could just be like a companion, just like a friend to them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
That's such
a
a wonderful way of looking at it. Because
Yeah, that's really beautiful the way you said
yeah,
that people could, if my songs could find home to.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. That just reminded
That's
of us of our times on the podcast. But I'm just kidding. But no. That was actually that was that's such a beautiful way of looking at it. Like Path Bhai said, absolutely. So this is going to be the last question, the corporate question that Path Bhai asked. So Path Bhai, go for it.
all
Okay.
right. So the question is basically, how do you like? What do what do you expect of yourself in the coming years? Not really years, but months or days or whatever future that you are
Yeah.
planning, or what do you plan to do in the coming time?
I mean, I think it's pretty simple. I just want to be like making music that I like, that I'm fond of.
Hmm.
And I mean, like I said, like I just want like people to be able to connect with it. And it's pretty simple, and then everything else is just gonna come with it. I mean, obviously, like there's a lot of things that people aspire to do in any profession.
Hmm.
uh, but I think all those things, in at least in music, or at least for me, I think they would just like come if like this, like, uh, this bottom line sort of gets
Hmm.
fulfilled. So that's pretty much really my goal. I just want to make it, keep it as simple as possible. Just make music every day and release it, and hopefully people connect with it, and I'm able to build a community of people who who, as I said, are able to find a home for my songs in their lives.
Yes, absolutely. That was wonderful. And Arnav, I'm just I mean, with all the sincerity that I can see and the honesty that I can see in your work, both of us, both Pathbhai and I, we would just pray the utmost prosperity to whatever you're doing, and I'm hopeful that whatever you said manifests in however it's going to play out for you. And I just hope I we just wish the best for you, man. I mean, big
Yeah.
ups to you. Thank you so much for taking the time. And here's to a lot more music. Here's to a lot more, uh, you know, uh, honest, raw emotions that you're trying to put together with your music. And I'm sure that it's going to impact people in the most positive way. So, years hoping to that. Thank you so much. If you guys have made it till this point, please go and follow Arnav on Instagram. Check out his music on audio streaming platforms. He's released 3 originals until now. We're going to link them in the bio. We're going to link his Instagram also in bio. Arnav, if you just want to tell your Instagram ID for the people hearing this on Spotify or audio streaming platforms.
Yeah, so my Instagram is Arnav Maggo. So you can go and connect with me over there, and my songs are available everywhere on all streaming platforms, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, Ghana, Jio 7. So you can listen to it like on your platform of choice. And yeah, and thank you so much for having me. I had a great time talking to you guys.
Pleasure's all ours, man. Thank you so much. We're so glad that it was you added. I mean, it was a decent experience for you. Thank you so much. If you guys have made it to this point, you guys can also follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram ID is soundshome.pod. We also have a website. We don't have anything on it. It's just a landing page for YouTube, but we're paying for the domain, so we have to say this. We paid for 2 years of domain, so you guys can go on www.soundshomepodcast.com. It'll basically redirect you to the latest episode that will come out. That we put out. We basically put out an episode every Friday on our YouTube channel and subsequently on other audio streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, podcast. I suppose either of them. So thank you so much. Big shout out to our graphic designer Saurabh Tripathi as well. He's doing a wonderful job. You guys can go and follow him as well. And thank you again, Arnav. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And here's to a lot more amazing music from you, and a lot of success and prosperity for you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We guys will see you in the next episode, guys. Cheers. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Yes.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much. Take care.